In the 12th century, when King Lalibela built his New Jerusalem in the remote mountains of Ethiopia, his Zagwe kingdom was relatively isolated from the turmoil gripping the Holy Land of Jerusalem, 1,400 miles north. But 500 years earlier, in the 7th century, Arab armies were on the march to the north, and internal strife was crumbling the once great Aksumite Empire who ruled here. And it seems as if some parts of the southeast cluster were built in that turbulent time. This looks like a drawbridge.
So far, I mean, the main access or entrance of the church has not been discovered yet. So this is the only access that we have to go in.
Like a medieval castle, this church only has one way in, a bridge 50 feet up, another clue pointing to military origins. And like a fortress prepared for a long siege, it may also have had its own water supply.
Wow. My lord, how deep is this thing?
That's really very deep.
Yeah,
even has got, you know, like water cistern underneath.
Yeah, that's what that is?
In the rainy season, this cistern could collect enough water to last the people here for months.
If this was as much a fortress as a church, then that could have been a water supply for a siege.
Yes, it could be for the church or for fortification. So we don't know exactly what it was.
But it's totally unique. Other churches don't have
different from the others. So what we have from the other church is just holy water, not like as water cistern in here.
Makes you wonder, huh?
Yeah. Today, the only access to the cistern is 50 feet below the churches, in one of the numerous water channels that snake through the entire site.
Ah, this is so cool. All right, so keep in mind, this is the dry season we're in here. Rainy season, we can't walk through here. This would be all full of water.
Most of the year, this is an arid region, where water can be more precious than gold. But in the rainy season, sudden storms could wreak havoc with flooding. So building a massive hydro-engineering system that could move floodwaters out while collecting some of the life-giving water made Lalibela's isolated existence possible. The complex collects and stores huge reserves of both rain and artesian spring water. And if the people here were afraid of attack from outsiders or infidels, an enormous reservoir of water would be essential.
All right. Wow. Look at this church. Incredible. Now, who knows really what they were using this for? I mean, these could be defensive walls for military use, but this is the cistern. Now, this is completely unique in Lalibela. From what Fukru tells me, this entire floor here is all a cistern space. Beneath it is almost 30 feet across. Check it out. See, that's me right there. Hello. So this is going underwater, and we're going to see if we can look at the underwater of the underworld. There she goes. Oh yeah, that's cool. I mean, all of this is filled with fresh water, and we're in the dry season. And you could enable a whole population of people, maybe even soldiers, maybe a defending army who is being besieged inside of this church/fortress. This is the water that would keep them alive.
These channels still work, collecting and distributing water. But we may never know if they were intended for irrigation or defense against some long-vanished threat.
Check it out. Look at this. All these strange spaces. This is a river channel, also hand-carved, rock-hewn. Right down here would have steered all this rainwater right through this channel and down to the River Jordan. Everything seems to be speculation in this place, because the records are gone, rock can't be carbon dated. No one knows. I mean, Lalibela, still a total mystery.
In the time of Jesus Christ, while the Roman Empire was spreading across the world, there was another mighty empire on the rise, the Aksumites of Ethiopia. I'm heading to a mountainous region, more than 300 miles north of Addis, to the city of Aksum. Now a small farming town, it was once the rich capital city of a mighty empire that dominated much of northeastern Africa for 600 years. Tradition has it that the Aksumite kings traced their lineage back to King Solomon, and even claimed that his son brought the Ark of the Covenant, at the time a Jewish relic believed to have mysterious powers, to Ethiopia in the 10th century BC. The Axumites' link to King Solomon, as evidenced by their exclusive claim to the Ark of the Covenant, did two important things. One, it helped give their kings legitimacy to the throne. And two, it helped create an entirely singular, unique brand of Christianity. Now, some of the only clues left of this one-time world power are located right across the street in a field of obelisks and inside the mysterious tombs of a lost empire. I'm meeting with a guy named Burhan Burhana. He's one of the best experts in this area on the relatively unknown history of the Axumite Empire. Burhan?
Hi, Dan. Nice to meet you.
You too. So this was the center of the Axumite Empire?
Yes.
Like Egypt, Axum was one of the ancient world's great empires for 600 years. From the 1st century AD to the 7th century AD, they mastered major trade routes between India and the Mediterranean and across the Red Sea, exporting luxury goods like ivory, spices, and gold. Proof of the Axumites' wealth and power is here, a field of over 120 towering obelisks, including the largest monolithic stone in the ancient world, the grave markers of Axumite royalty. Erected sometime in the 400 years after the birth of Christ, they weigh up to 500 tons, and each was cut from a single stone and hauled here, some say by elephants, from miles away. So these monuments, these obelisks, are massive. Why are they here?
They are here to mark tombs for the royal family.
Okay. Rising up to 80 feet, each stone was typically supported by a foundation measuring roughly 10% of its total height and bolstered on two sides by gigantic horizontal stones. Surrounding the central foundation are several underground rooms used to entomb the dead and seal away incredible riches. War and lack of resources have made archaeology a luxury in modern Ethiopia, and 90% of these tombs are still unexplored. This is insanely huge. Like the pyramids in Egypt, this elaborately carved stele marks the final resting place for a king who was as formidable as any pharaoh. So these are the windows, these are the beams. So this is essentially the replica of a palace, a royal palace.
Axumite royal palace.
For the royals who were buried beneath it.
Yes, exactly.
These massive stones were only grave markers. It was in the rooms below that they would spend eternity. Beautiful. Now these are the chambers here.
The chambers here.
There's 10 of these.
Yeah.
And each one of these chambers would be a burial place.
A burial and a treasury as well.
Oh, okay.
Because even before the death of the king, they were used as a store where they keep the treasures. And after the death of the king, the treasures were used for the life after death.
So this is like in Egypt. They would build these tombs before the king actually died.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. If you're upstairs looking around at this field, you see stelae, all these obelisks everywhere in this huge field. Each one of them is the marker for a grave beneath. Only 5% of them have been excavated. Now they have fully excavated some of these places, but you know who got here first were grave robbers. Many burial chambers had treasure rooms beside them. The grave robbers would make their way into the tomb, then cut a hole through the wall to get to the valuable ivory and gold next door. Imagine what you see is now an empty room, filled with ivory tusks, gold, silver, everything that this king would represent himself with in the afterlife. This is how prosperous the Axumites were. These burial rites ended in the 4th century AD when the Axumite kings adopted Christianity, and a Jewish relic they had possessed for centuries became their greatest treasure, the Ark of the Covenant. Rumors have placed this precious artifact all over the world, but this is the land of King Solomon's son, Menelik, and many believe he brought the Ark home. Legend says it's still here today, in this small church just across the road from the pagan tombs. Living inside that church is the guardian, a monk whose entire life is dedicated to the protection of the Ark and praying by its side. Ethiopians have been assigning monks this duty
for almost 3,000 years. Indeed, in 3 millennia, no one has been allowed to see the Ark except the guardians. Not kings, not popes, not even heads of state. No one has been allowed inside.
By the 6th century AD, 1400 years after the Ark may have first arrived here, the Western world was in chaos. The Roman Empire had fallen, and Europe was mired in the horror of the Dark Ages. But the Aksumite Empire was at its peak, and just a mile from the pagan obelisks, their Christian king Caleb built a magnificent final resting place, a tomb that may have lured the relic-hunting Knights Templar, searching for the Aksumites' greatest treasure.
I can already feel this is a much grander, deeper tomb than the others.
This is the last, maybe, the last Aksumite king's tomb.
Really?
We have, which belongs to the son of King Caleb. This is the room for the grave with 3 sarcophagus.
Right.
Ready for him and for his wife and for his son or daughter. And one sarcophagus is different from the others because it's with a cross, with Aksumite hand cross.
Huh. Carved in the end there.
We do have one Aksumite cross right here.
It does look like a Templar cross.
Exactly. But Templars were 11th century, but this is even the Aksumite used in the coin in the 4th century AD. That's why we call it Aksumite one.
This cross, almost identical to the Crusader symbol, predates it by 7 centuries. It could be a coincidence, or it could prove Europeans were here looking for the Ark. Many claim the Knights Templar dug for it under the Temple Mount in Jerusalem and searched the ancient Jordanian city of Petra. They may have come to Aksum as well.
So why did the Templars come here?
They know that through the legend, the Ark of the Covenant was transported to Ethiopia. So they came here to search for the Holy Grail and for the Ark of the Covenant. So they adopted some elements like a cross like this, which they call it the Knight Templars or the Crusaders cross like that.
Fascinating. That's where this is from. Cool.
Did the predecessors of the Knights Templar come here searching for the Ark? And did they find it? Or is the greatest treasure in Christianity still locked away in a small church in a dusty town? The answers may be lost in time, like the once great but now forgotten Empire of Aksum.
Everything in this tomb speaks to the height of the Aksumite Empire. It doesn't get any better than this. In fact, this king sees the Aksumite Empire at its height. After this, certain factors contribute to the downfall. One, the Muslim armies end up cutting off the trade routes, the sea trade routes that the Aksumites have used for their great prosperity. It becomes a landlocked state. So all of these factors contribute to the decline of the great Aksumite Empire. And what follows are the Dark Ages. For most of us living in a modern, secular world, we practice our religion conveniently, maybe one day a week at best, in places not so far from home. But starting in the 11th century, Christians here, and from places as far away as Egypt, made annual pilgrimages to this remote region here in Ethiopia, to a legendary church built within a mountain cave, where many came to worship, and many came to die.
In the central highlands of Ethiopia, at an altitude of almost 9,000 feet, lies a scattering of tiny farming settlements. But nearly 1,000 years ago, this area is thought to have been a magnet for sick and dying Christians, who came here searching for a miraculous cure, or a peaceful end to their suffering, in a mysterious burial site near a lake of healing waters.